People like Sandy Munro had been suggesting to manufacturers for years to move toward larger castings. They're simpler, they're easier, they're more cost-effective if done in the correct volume. So why haven't more manufacturers done it? Are they still getting better? And why is Tesla taking a small half step back from them? We're going to address all that and so much more. I'm Brian. Welcome to Future Raza. Here, buddy Mark, who has been following all things Tesla for years, but really a lot of things EV beyond Tesla. And I know you've had a number of videos where you guys have discussed GigaCastings. In a nutshell, what is a GigaCasting?
A GigaCasting is a new form of really large, I guess you would say, it's more of it's like a small toy car. You see how it's completely made with metal. It's molten metal. It's pushed into a mold. They pop the mold off. They may shave off some parts or some casting rough edges, and you've got yourself a complete part that reduces the part count because there's not all these extra parts that are put together to make this big unit. You're seeing in a photo here that just these one particular part has probably eliminated 90% of the parts that used to be made when they were riveted and screwed and glued together, all the little parts to make this big part we're seeing on screen.
So if I wish to get something like a crowbar, an easy way to make it is to start with a straight bar and bend one end of it. But if you're going to try and get to a piece that's as complicated in shape and size and dimension as this, the way it's typically done is they, stamp a bunch of pieces, weld them, glue them, rivet them, whatever it may be, to get them all together to form something that kind of looks like this. Where this one, apart from these two little, can't really see my mouse here, but these two little interior brackets, this whole thing is one piece that is shot into a mold. In 10 milliseconds and pops out the other side. They do this because it's straight, it's plumb, it's easy, and if you make them in sufficient quantity, it's cheap. The trick is if you don't make enough cars, if you're only going to make 100,000, maybe even 1 million cars over the lifetime of the vehicle before you swap everything out, it's not cost effective.
Yeah, you'll never get your money back from the mold and the machinery that's required to inject the mold this size.
Well, when you say this size, are you referring to the fact that the machine that makes it looks like this?
Yeah, that might be part of it, yes.
It is a large machine. It applies 9,000 tons of clamping force. This one's actually, I think, a 6,000 ton model. The one for the castings on the Cybertruck is 9,000 tons. It is very large and very precise. So the reason we're discussing this is because there's this fantastic clip. Sandy Munro got a chance to go out and talk to Franz von Holzhausen and Lars Moravy at Tesla about the engineering, about a lot of things, but this little clip in particular is interesting. We learned this.
And it became lighter and
we're using that now here too, but it's crazy for me. I was just looking at the numbers with my team. You know, the original one-piece casting from 2020 when we came out with this was like 67 kilos.
Yeah.
And now we're down just below 60. And it's crazy to think that we took out almost 15% of the mass, and we increased the stiffness, and we increased the, the point mobility locally. And I mean, the other thing that's impressive is our cycle time went from like 180, 170 seconds. We're down about 75 seconds now. So we do that through conformal cooling.
Yeah, right.
So did you catch all that?
Yeah.
The castings have gotten lighter over time.
They've gotten lighter and more efficient.
And faster.
Yeah.
So that means that one big machine we just saw can make the critical piece for that part of the car every 70 seconds, 75 seconds. If there's any downtime, if you're making cars every 60 seconds, that might be okay because you can stockpile a bit and surely something else on the line goes down at some point and then you catch up again. But if you're running well in excess of that, you just put in a second machine. Because as the video goes on to explain, in Shanghai, they are running two machines and they are making about a car every 30, 35 seconds. and it's crazy.
What's really amazing is that, like you mentioned, the pressure that's put on this machine to inject the mold with molten metal, a certain type of molten metal that is able to dry quickly, and then put that pressure on it, hold it, and then press the button to release it in dry, not dry, but cool down, so it can be sufficiently at the right temperature before use.
It has to cool enough before they open it that it doesn't shrink, because metals can change dimension when they are heating and cooling. So that's critical. Now, what can they do differently? I asked Corey this in an interview. I've asked Corey Steuben when he was still with Munro. I've asked Sandy this, and I'm looking at this and I am saying there's a lot of room for improvement. Do you need all of this? Can you put more holes in it? Can you have more webbing and less, solid area? And in some places, in some cases, the answer is yes. That's one way that they've been able to reduce the weight of it, is by not overbuilding it.
Well,
Anyone,
you heard Lars saying that they've reduced it by almost 15% over time. So that talk about increasing the webbing or reducing a part a little bit smaller or a section smaller, obviously Tesla has been playing with this and adjusting and iterating as new designs are being tested and run for their vehicles.
all the time. And the time is money, faster is better. The fact that they could cut the cycle time by half means that they didn't have to buy an additional machine. They don't have to double up on the technicians and all that. And because they do so much of this redesign themselves, they've actually built their own die shop in Texas where they can iterate. They do use, of course, computer modeling to try and figure out the best way. And if you look at this, there's a lot of straight lines, a lot of right angles here. This design was clearly made by a human engineer. And if you look at the Cybertruck patterns, the patterns in the castings there, they look more like wild rivers, because those were designed in the software for ease of flow. So there are a lot of ways to simplify. And from talking with Luca, who posts about Luca Greco, who posts about GigaCastings all the time, he said everybody is working to make them lighter. Because remember, anybody can build a bridge. It takes an engineer to build a bridge that just barely doesn't fall down.
Think about that the next time you're crossing a bridge.
Well, yes. If you look at, those Roman bridges stood for thousands of years. Yeah, they were overbuilt. They were way overbuilt. And that's great if you have infinite resources, build everything to 1,000-year standards. But we don't. And so we want something that I'd rather have 10 bridges that do stay up, but not for thousands of years, than one bridge that is already over capacity the day it opens. So
that'd be great on an engineering's card. It would say, built to barely stand up.
What I'd like to see someday is a business card for out of spec studios, Kyle and them.
Yep.
That's misprinted. It'd be hilarious if it said out of spec and that's literally offset into the bleed. That would be
off kilter on purpose.
That would be, the problem is the joke is too subtle and people would just go, these guys are unprofessional. But Kyle's a great guy. He does not joke as aggressively as I do. But
nobody does, Brian. Nobody does.
Certainly not in this community. One of my castmates was like, I've watched some of your videos about engineering and batteries and whatnot, and you're really funny. I'm like, yes, thank you. I'm frequently referred to as the funniest person in this space, if not the second funniest. And it's not that hard. Most people are quite focused on whatever their particular topic is. And for me, I gotta get the jokes in. I just gotta. So of course, you know what time it is.
Here we go. Oh, we got the left and the right eye in that one.
Oh, you know what? That means this time you can cover your mouth. Very, very good. You know what? I always forget I am free to like my own videos. I haven't seen this one. I hear it's okay. We like to answer your questions, folks, and we're going to do that. These questions some of them are about the lithium mines, but some of them are still about semi. We'll see. For next week, how destructive is the lithium mining process to the environment? Where is it being mined from? And does it affect any indigenous communities?
Well, it could affect some indigenous communities. I'm not aware of exactly if that is the case, but there's a lot of different discussion about how lithium can be mined with less impact on the environment. I remember when Tesla first talked about mining their own lithium. You'll probably remember this as well, Brian. They were talking about actually digging from a site in Nevada, picking up a scoop of dirt, sifting or doing something to it that they could get the lithium raw out of it, and then putting the dirt back in the same hole they dug in the first place. Now, I
Mm.
don't think that process is in play at this point, but you can definitely find ways to minimize environmental impact when you are mining.
Yes, you can. I did go ahead and dig into it. Tesla has agreed to buy lithium ore from mines in Quebec and Australia. So Sayona mine, mining in Quebec, and Liontown Resources in Australia. So I don't know more than that about the facilities. Um, Lithium mining is not super damaging to an environment. It is not worse than really any other kind of mining. I've seen old memes that say, this is what a natural gas mine looks like. And it's just like a little wellhead. And this is what it looks like for the batteries in your car. And it shows a copper mine. It's like, well, my battery's not made out of copper. They go, no, that's a lithium mine. No, no, look up lithium mines. You'll find some lovely salt brine pools in Argentina and Chile. But fine, whatever. It's okay. So yeah, I'm not as worried about that. And once you've mined the lithium once, you don't need to mine it again. You can reuse that same battery's worth of lithium in perpetuity. What is the volume of lithium planned for the first phase of the refinery? I could not find information on the first phase. Could you?
No, no, there's
No,
nothing that's published that I can see.
no. There is an official statement from Tesla about the groundbreaking. In this, they just say $1 billion, 1,200-acre site. And it's not in this one, but in another one, I was able to find that it is targeting 50 gigawatt hours of battery per year, enough for at least 500,000 cars. So that's pretty good. That is a step in the right direction. Yes, we read your questions and we take them seriously. We also take them for fun because sometimes they're fun. What is the function of this plant? What are the inputs to the plant? What are the outputs? Start with lithium carbonate. And that part I don't have an answer to. The answer is known. It's on Joe Tegmeyer's video. But what part of the lithium supply chain is Tesla attempting to intervene in here? Turning rock into something you can put into your battery factory is my understanding. Am I missing anything?
No, I would just add that again, Tesla loves to iterate a process. If they see that, well, everyone's been doing it this way forever, that is the perfect thing for Tesla to really search on their engineers to make changes, to find solutions, to speed things, to make things more efficient. That's what they do with everything. They do it with batteries. They do it with seats that they make for the cars. Like this is something that they will do, and they're going to turn everything on their head if they believe they can make it more efficient or they can make it cheaper. That's just the way they do it.
It's just the way they're going to do it. Here's a harder one. I do not have the answer. Have they figured out where they're going to get the water? Supposedly they need something like 8 million gallons a day. Now, I looked up the water question some time back. I don't remember the numbers, but they were staggering, the amount of water used in lithium refinement. But I'm not sure if that 8 million gallons a day is what's used in this type of refinement, or if that's what's used in something more like the big open air pools that evaporate all day.
Yeah.
I do not know the answer to this. If anyone has answers to what the water concerns genuinely are, both now, but really at scale, when it's fully scaled, the big numbers, what I want, and where they will get it from. Because unless you're going to put in your own desalination plant, but 8 million gallons a day, that's expensive. That is expensive.
Yep.
I can see them saying no to automated semis in cities rush hour. It will be a county by county fight for autonomy, and when it is and or isn't allowed, besides snowstorms, can you think of other times that you would not trust autonomous driving? It says driveling, but I know what you meant. As for delivering a brick versus aerodynamic, it's all about the speed. As for city trucks who never make it over 45, a brick makes very little difference. I said buses can have a flat nose, and this is correct. Buses don't generally go 75 down the highway all day. Greyhound does, though. But hey,
some buses, yeah, some routes.
Some do, but I can see why it'd be cheaper to have a handful of buses be inefficient rather than make whole new class of buses. So can you think of other... So first of all, I would like to say I agree. Some cities may not permit some forms of autonomous driving at some times. I think autonomous semi deliveries would be well served to be an overnight kind of feature. That'd be great. Leave those cities to the pedestrians and cars during the day and the deliveries at night. New York has done that very well. Apart from snow, when would I not trust autonomous driving? My answer to that is anytime I wouldn't trust a human driving. Tesla has struggled with seeing into direct sunlight. I also struggle seeing into direct sunlight.
Yeah.
I've watched a lot of videos of dash cam crashes where everything looks fine and then you just hit something because you couldn't see it because of that gosh darn nuclear furnace in the sky. Do you have any thoughts on when you wouldn't trust autonomous driving?
I have noticed in my car specifically, which doesn't relate to the semi, but it does in some ways too, is that you can get the vehicle a little bit dirty. You could a spray of mud. You can get the car splashing through a dirty puddle, and it can affect some of the sensors in certain cases. You can have your pillar camera or your fender camera register an issue, and besides the sun blinding it, it can also be because it's partially blinded from the film left from water. Or dirty water on those camera lenses.
Okay. I agree with all that. It'd be very easy for if the truck was autonomous and did not have inductive charging, when it gets to a station for a human or robot to plug it in, they could also just go squirt your cameras for you if the cameras are somehow not self-cleaning.
And we've seen that Tesla has been modifying some of their cameras, the rear camera most recently, where they're putting a little bit of extra housing on the camera to allow water to run off and drip from the bottom and not interfere with that camera lens. So again, more iteration.
Mm-hmm. I had to last week at the play, I had to tell my castmates, they found me giggling, staring at my phone. I had to explain to them why there are so many comments on my videos about spiders. And I had to tell them the truth. A lot of people don't know that the average person in their sleep eats, and this is at least how I remember it, 7 pounds of spiders per night. Per night or per year?
And how many people gagged at that at the... 7 pounds.
7 pounds seems high. I'm like, well, that's what I read. I'm pretty sure that's what I read. And again, they didn't believe me, but that's all right. We've got a couple comments here. I did not know spider jokes were helpful. All I can think of to add requested substance to the conversation. What did the spider say as he walked across the mirror? Well, that's one way to look at it.
Oh, groan.
Jamie, I hope that was AI generated because And then the last one, Brian, what's your body mass index in spiders? Wow. I don't know the conversion, but I think that would be somehow scarier still.
in spiders.
Very
Yes.
weird. Very weird. Guys, thanks for hanging out with us. I have a good time with my buddy Mark from the Tesla Life. He does a bunch of videos throughout the week with his friends, Pat and Casey, and they do some great stuff. They have some guests on from time to time. They have me on from time to time. So
Yeah.
obviously they're
I
not
don't know how
very
he
good
gets
judges
on,
of
but
character.
every once in a while he does show up. Yep.
I find the hidden link. They're like, what? How did? Okay, I guess. Well, now he's talking. So
We gotta
it
let
just
him go.
happens. How did he hijack our mute buttons? My show now. My show. We have a lot of fun. And they do stay active in the chat. So if you have questions or comments during their Wednesday 4 p.m. Pacific live stream, 7 p.m. Eastern, they will see them. They will address them. They will not read them out loud, but laugh to themselves if it's my comment and I'm trying to get them in trouble. So guys, what did we miss? What did we misunderstand? Leave it in the comments below. Like, subscribe, do what you do. Stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear from you clever robots speaking with your mouth full of 7 pounds of spiders. You know what we should put right here after the video ends? Fade to black. Go back up on this. I don't know if you saw, there was a show called Raising Hope where somebody mentioned that anecdote about 7 spiders a year. So Sabrina sleeps with stockings over her head. And then they don't address it for like several episodes, maybe even a whole season. And some noise happens at night. Is someone breaking in? And she rushes out. She's like holding a baseball bat and she's got a stocking over her head. She looks like a mugger.
She looks like a mugger herself.
Yeah. And they're like, right. And you're like, right. The spiders.
The spiders. The open
Thanks
mouth.
Thanks for sticking around until the actual end, you guys.